My name is Kings Walters, and my brand is called Kings Walters London, or for short KWL. I started it off by being a leather and accessory luggage company, and now I'm moving into doing canvas bags, with the end goal being to then move into like making clothes. So I'm kind of doing it the reverse way.
My name is Adam Law. I'm the workshop manager at George Cleverley's. George Cleverley is a bespoke shoemaker, so we've got a long history of making shoes, and they're regarded as some of the best shoes in the world.
My name is Tan. I'm the designer and owner of the unisex handmade clothing label called Lane 45. I started the label roughly 3 years ago and formally launched it a couple of years ago in 2016. And to start with, I think I started the label only as menswear, but very quickly I realized that I had more customers who were women than men's. And then I, as a designer, evolved very quickly, and I decided, no, I think unisex and handmade is the way to go. And the entire philosophy sat well together. So I started making unisex and handmade clothing.
Our company is Prosperous Designs. We make and design handmade jewellery. My name is Chloe Bailey. I'm the head of retail for here, so I'm in charge of all the retail sites that we have. We have 2 shops in Brighton, and then we have our 1 shop in Camden, Islington, and we're just about to open our first concession in Ely's in Wimbledon.
Handmade for me is just more than something made with hand. When something is made with hand, you attach a story, a person who's making it for you, the entire philosophy of the brand, rather than just saying that we made something merely with hands. And you get a personal connection with the maker. And at the same time, on a personal note, when I wake up in the morning, I usually look at my hands. That's the first thing I do. I'll probably rub it on my face. And I think in our day-to-day life, we forget how important part hands play in our life. And I always give the example of Italians. They talk more with their hands, and they were the first one to go for handmade clothing, and they're still the leaders of handmade, tailored or bespoke clothing.
And I kind of fell in love with doing stuff with my hand, and if it's most of the time, if it's made the right way by hand with leather stuff, the durability is much longer, it's much stronger, and it just have more meaning to me personally. So that's why I stuck to it, and that's my main focus. I think now in a world where everything is just like so mass produced, people are kind of slowly coming back and having more value in stuff that's made like locally and stuff that's made by hand, because the mass production was getting so out of control with like the human race just getting so dependent on like stuff that's made fast, technology that's moving so fast. I think people kind of slowly finding back the importance in actually making stuff, because if we don't make anything anymore by our hand, it would just like lose touch of things, I guess.
I think people are always interested in how things are made, and I think that definitely comes back to the process of UK handmade. I think there's so many processes that are manufactured on a mass scale nowadays, and I think people kind of really enjoy seeing the person behind the product and sort of seeing them in action. It just proves to people that it's kind of a unique individual piece. Every piece is handmade, it's made specifically for you, and it's personalized for you. So it's kind of a really unique process, and I think people are really intrigued to see that, just to see kind of where the brand is and how they kind of get from a start of a process process to kind of a finished piece at the end of it.
I'm Natasha Radcliffe-Thomas, and I'm the course leader for fashion marketing in the Fashion Business School at the London College of Fashion. I think handmade and artisan skills have had various periods where they've kind of been under threat, and we've lost a lot of hand skills. So say around the middle of the 20th century, we lost a lot of those kind of hand skills and techniques. But I think at the moment it's a kind of nostalgia, and people are wanting to connect with garments, with products, with making in a way that they don't find in their everyday work.
I think in the last 5 or 6 years there has been a sort of a revelation, and 90s and the early 2000s were the years where handmade wasn't considered to be having much of a life in time to come. But the last 5 or 6 years there has been an upheaval again. Handmade has come back in fashion, and I think that is because, especially in the last few years, people have started accepting the slow life as a lifestyle, and they have slowed down their pace of life. They enjoy things more on a slower pace rather than the fast life of the 90s and the early 2000s, and that is where handmade clothes have become more popular, or handmade objects or anything of craft has become more popular, because they understand that something is being made specifically for them. They know who's making it, and that provides them both an ethical satisfaction of using something, and at the same time the product is much more better. I always say that a handmade piece of clothing would have more imperfections than a piece of clothing made by machines. But somebody who fancies or likes handmade stuff values those tiny imperfections, because they can tell that that's something human and not machine-like.
Probably in the last 5-10 years there's been a real resurgence in that. So people are generally shifting towards probably having better quality clothing and maybe apparel, and that's in their lifestyle as well, that they would rather have fewer things but are better made. I mean, there's nothing like having, putting on a pair of shoes that's made specifically for you, so it feels like it's your shoe. And you can have the same with a suit, with shirts, gloves, lots of other things.
And I think social media's had a big role in that, in kind of highlighting stories, good and bad, about how things are produced. And we've had a period of enormous growth with, mass manufacture, fast fashion, for example. And a lot of people are kind of a bit tired of that. They find it a bit exhausting and overwhelming, and they want to kind of go back to a time where people took their time to make something and they invested part of their soul and their spirit into products. And I think that's what really connects and resonates with people. And at the same time, we've got a long history, especially in London, for example, with areas like Savile Row, with hand making in things like tailoring. So those kind of industries are coming into the 21st century, finding a whole new generation of customers who can really appreciate those kind of hand skills. At the same time, you've got younger people, young makers and startups, and again, the internet's really enabled people to put their products out there. They can have a worldwide market tomorrow. So there's lots of, websites and through Instagram even, that people can sell their own goods and get attention for them. And I think that's really opened up a whole other area of makers.
We use a marketing mix of social media, Google paid search, email marketing and direct mail print media. We do a lot of data profiling on our customers, and we'll also do matchback for customers' purchases, which means that we can target customers directly. But to be honest, the most important thing for us is customer feedback and people kind of talking about the brands. So kind of having an amazing experience in store and then talking about that to their friends and family and passing on sort of what we do as a business. That's one of the most important marketing things for us.
I guess like social media and stuff like that made it a bit easier in some sense, because if I follow someone that's into like the craft scene or into stuff that's made well, then they probably have different people following them, so I kind of navigate my way and reaching out to the market in that way. Yeah, there's always going to be challenges that I've faced is basically when stuff is made by hand. In my sense, it takes me a much longer time than doing it by machine. So if I'm, say, pricing it or pricing it by the hour, or the material that I'm using, like some people don't get the concept of like why it costs this much, or why is it not like compared to something that's produced like mass by machine. So in some sense, just the pricing and just the people that don't understand it, they will probably say, oh, it's too expensive. Even some of my friends may say that because they don't understand. So you know what I mean. So if I don't explain to them, or if they don't get the value behind it,
I think the handmade will keep on growing to some extent. It's not necessarily ever got mass scalability to be able to increase, because probably the most difficult thing that we have is finding craftsmen, because it's not something that you can pick up and learn very quickly. So you've got to have dedication and patience to be able to do that. It's not something that you can just do straight away.
Money would always be a factor. Handmade, being a handmade label, you cannot compete with people who are making clothes in huge factories, because they play by huge numbers and the prices are low. So predominantly, most of the number of shoppers you see have a certain budget in mind, and I think it comes down to money, sadly, as to who they shop for. And that is why the handmade industry will not be dominating over the mainstream fashion brands or the high street, because of that simple reason. And I don't think the handmade industry wants to dominate.
But also there are people who are arguing that the whole kind of, fourth industrial revolution, the way that things are made now, the way that things are produced, can't actually continue. So it will be nice to see some of that hand skills. Trends come and go, and it'll be interesting to see how long this maintains, whether it expands, what kind of impact it has, and whether, for example, things like with robotics and AI coming in, to what extent that hand skill can be mimicked by a robot and then mass produced.